Hello, everyone. Welcome to Manjiri Monologues, my FBLive chat. This is my fourth session. I'm really happy to be here. And first and foremost, happy Independence Day to all Indians all over the world and to friends of India. May there be peace, love, harmony, compassion, everything in your hearts and in your lives. So before I begin, I have to announce the winner of last week's question. The question was, what was the name of Tara's horse in The Shadow of Inheritance? The answer is Chandni. And the winner is Harmonica Maini. Congratulations, Harmonica. So today's book is The Trail of Four. Before I talk about The Trail of Four, I just want to talk about my love for traveling. I really love traveling. In all my books so far, I've always had some element of adventure, which, takes you to another place away from Pune, where I live. And I had, it was a backdrop always, never a kind of a character. So when I started my destination thriller series, which began with The Trail of Four, I realized that I had to combine my love for writing with my love for traveling in a more connected way. And that is why this first book, The Trail of Four, was born, where the destination is actually a character. There are actually clues in the character, and the destination takes the story forward. So that's a little bit of the book. This is the book. I'm going to show it to you. Oops, sorry. Okay, this is The Trail of Four, and it's the first book in the Destination Thriller series. So I'll tell you a little bit of the book. In this book, there is an investigative journalist called Ray Parker, who gets psychic visions of a place before he actually goes there. And in the visions, he can see that there's something going to happen, and he tries to go and save the place or the people or whatever. So this book takes place in Schloss Leopoldskron, which is in Salzburg. And if you've seen the film The Sound of Music, this palace is very famous because Sound of Music, parts of it were shot, outside in the lake and I think outskirts of the palace, etc. So Schloss Leopoldskron came into my life quite early on. I firmly believe, that some things are destined to happen. And for me, this book is a perfect example of how, when something has to happen, the trail or the seed goes way back into your past. For me, this book happened actually in 2014. I actually went there and wrote it, but the seed of it was sown in 1998. So just to tell you a little bit of the story, I was backpacking with my husband in Europe in 1998. And, we went over all the countries. And finally, we came to Austria, which is so beautiful. And we came to Salzburg, and we took the Sound of Music tour. And the tour takes you, right around outside the lake, and they show you the palace from the outside. And we all stopped and we took photographs. And I realized, it was so magnificent and so fascinating. And I said, hey, I want to go there. And I think my willpower was really very strong, because in 2001, I was invited by the Salzburg Global Seminar to be a part of a session called Books to Screen. Now, the Salzburg Global Seminar is an international organization which invites, philosophers, thinkers, leaders, professionals all over the world to come and talk and discuss world issues. And their mission, to be very clear, is to challenge current and future leaders to shape a better future. So I was very lucky to be called there, and they owned this palace. And, the second time that I went to Salzburg, I stepped into this palace, and I knew at once that I had to base a story here. So, that's cut to two. Now, flash forward to 2012. This desire in me was still so strong. I still wanted to write that book. I wrote other books in between, and I did other things. I was a television producer. I did all that. But still, there was something that kept pulling me back to that palace. And I decided that I finally had to do something about it. So I reached out to Thomas Biebel, who is then the communications and marketing director. And I think he spoke to Daniel and Claire and, all the top people there. And they invited me back to the Schloss to sit and write a book. Just imagine, it was a dream come true for me. And then when I went there, I'll tell you the exact time, or the exact spot, or the exact moment that The Trail of Four was born was when Jan Heinecke, who was the fellowship manager, took me on a tour of the Schloss. And we were in the Marble Hall, which is a beautiful, magnificent hall where all the dinners take place. And I looked up at the ceiling, and there were these frescoes all over the ceiling. But what was very, very, very special of the frescoes were that they were in fours. They were represented, so there were the arts, the continents, the stages of life, then seasons. All these were represented in fours, in beautiful frescoes on the ceilings. And it was at that precise moment that I knew how the novel was going to shape. So that's it. And from there, of course, the journey of the research began, and everyone was so helpful. I mean, it's not easy to write a book which is not from your country. I mean, you're an outsider actually in that country. So to write a book like an insider, you need a lot of help. And I got lots of it from all the members of the Salzburg Global Seminar. Like Charles is going to be here soon. So Charles and Thomas and Dan and Richard and Louise and Jan, and they were all so helpful, and they provided me with so much research that it was very much easy to write the Trail of Four. Anyway, so then finally in 2014 when I went there, and the book got actually published by the end of 2016 or beginning of 2017, and I went back there in April to launch the book in the palace, and it was the most amazing experience. So that is a bit about the Trail of Four, and we have with us Charles, Dr. Charles Ehrlich. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And he was very much a part of the research, and I would like to now invite him to be a part of this talk. So I'm just going to add him on. Hey, Charles, how are you?
Good afternoon. Hello.
Yes. Welcome to Manjiri Monologues.
Thank you, and welcome virtually back to Schloss Leopoldskron.
I know. I can see. Are you sitting in the Schloss right now?
I'm sitting in Mark Reinhardt's private office, which was originally built as the vestry for the Archbishop who built the palace.
Amazing. I recognized it. This was where I went and sat in January 2019 to write Legend of the Snow Queen. It's a beautiful place to write, of course. So, Charles, I mean, I guess you heard me say a lot of things about Salzburg Global Seminar, and it's a very special organization, and I think it's brought about a lot of change in my life. I mean, a lot of things, including my Lit Fest and my book, and played a very major role in my life. So, when did you join the Salzburg Global Seminar, and what kind of a role do you play in the seminar?
I came 6.5 years ago, almost, so May of 2014. This is the longest I've ever stayed in a single job in my life. I tend to move around a lot, and I found a home here. It's really a wonderful organization to work for. It's wonderful work that we do. We get to meet people like you and all the other fellows from around the world, and it makes it a very stimulating place to work. I'm a program director, so which means that I design and organize the actual programs that we run, which these are not conferences. I just want to be clear to people who are not familiar with us. These are really convenings, but they're part of a greater network. So things are happening all the time. We're very selective of who we invite to come here. And now that with the COVID times, we're doing lots of activities remotely, who we invite to join our network and work with each other around the world to make these transformative changes. And my background is a lawyer, and I was working before I came here in transitional countries near Europe or in Europe, in the Balkans and the former Soviet Union primarily, and helping them with their transitions post-totalitarian society. So in public administration, rule of law, justice, and whatnot. And so I've taken a bit of that into my work here, and I'm just delighted to be here with a bunch of colleagues who come from all sorts of different backgrounds. And so there's a great interchange across sectors, because if we are going to transform the world and make it a better place, it's not just sitting in our silo talking to the same people we always talk to. It's getting to know a broad assortment of people with different points of view. And that includes on our staff and our team, which is just wonderful people to work with. And it, of course, it includes all the people we meet from around the world.
Yes. So, so since you're doing it's a lot of heavy work, let me say, you're trying to change the world, and into this real academic kind of a setup enters a fiction thriller writer who wants to base a book there. So what was your first impression when I said, hey, I want to write a thriller based in the Schloss?
Well, I think it's important for those who don't know the Schloss, except maybe through your book, it is important to underscore that the history of this place is bound up with all sorts of cultural activities. So the second owner of the Schloss, the nephew officially of the archbishop who built it, was one of the first patrons of Mozart. So Mozart, as a little baby, basically, when he first started playing piano, he was playing concerts here in the Schloss. And so there's always been this artistic sense throughout the Schloss's history, but especially in the last 102 years, 1918, Max Reinhardt, the great theater director, purchased the Schloss. He founded the Salzburg Festival in this building, room across the other side of the library where I'm sitting now. He founded that 100 years ago, so we're having the 100th anniversary of the Salzburg Festival right now as we speak. I was at a concert this morning. I go to one this afternoon. So the idea that something that is cultural, that is not necessarily just your usual political drama or your usual think about the world, you need to think out of the box. You need to think culturally.
Yeah. So you weren't too surprised when I said, hey, I'd write a thriller based there. No. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you what also, I guess what also adds to the intrigue is where the Archbishop Firmin Leopold's heart is actually buried in the chapel and his body is buried in the cathedral, and it forms a very integral part of my story. So I think, when you have such a mysterious and amazing history attached to a place, you wouldn't be surprised if people want to base a book there. So I'm glad I got to be the first, and I'm glad that I got to be there at all and to write the book, because I love the book myself, even if I'm saying it so, because for me, it was a treat writing the book, sitting there actually in the palace, enjoying the atmosphere, being treated like royalty. It all comes across in the book. So when you how did it feel? I remember I interviewed you for the book, and you gave me all the characters, although I changed the names, of course, and their and their positions and all their I changed their backgrounds and everything. You gave me this whole how should I say, the characters which come from the influential, the political, the heads of countries. You gave me all that when you invited them yourself. So how was it inviting? Because I know in the book I created this whole thing where they all had their bodyguards and they all had conditions and all that. And I think you gave me some of it. But when you organized that session, when you invited heads of countries for a very special program, how was it actually dealing with all of them?
You get used to dealing with everybody, but the best people to invite, really, no matter whether they are still students or whether they are the leader of a country, it doesn't matter. They're all humans, and you need to make sure you treat them like a human being, treat them equal as human beings, but also give them that very human experience that I think people have when they come here. And so it's not just people coming here to pontificate and say, I know the answers to all the world's problems and listen to me. It's actually people who come here, no matter how important they are, because they say, wait a minute, there's a problem I can't solve. And I may have great aides and a great team, but talking to them and talking to my colleagues, I can't solve this problem. I need to meet someone who's different. So actually bringing people here, no matter how famous they are or how unknown they are, and mixing them together as a bunch of human beings who have different perspectives on the world, and having them exchange, and making sure that they are generous with those exchanges, are generous with each other, generous with sharing their ideas, and generous with listening to each other's ideas. And then when they go home, they don't have to agree with each other. They just have to have learned something which allows them to make changes in whatever it is that's troubling them.
So it's not very difficult dealing with them because they're human beings, all said and done.
Correct. I mean, some people are more. Sometimes people who don't get us yet. I want to be diplomatic, but sometimes people who've never been here before say, well, you talk to my assistant who'll do everything, and they don't realize that actually it's not the assistant. It's really the personal connection with them, and they get here and they connect. And I won't identify who it is, and you've obviously disguised all the identities. But one of the characters that you mentioned in the book, in disguise, so in real life, the character you based him on, was also, I'd been in touch only with his aides beforehand. Yes, he was coming, but he was only going to come. He wasn't going to stay for the full thing because he's a busy, busy man. And he came, and then he said, "Can I actually stay the whole thing?"
Longer.
I
Yeah.
never have these conversations where I am. I always have surrounded by aides, and they keep the people away. I never get to have to talks with this diverse group of people when I'm sitting in my office, in my country, in my ministry. So that was, people come here and they have that realization that actually getting out of their usual day-to-day lives and getting into this magical location with people they do not know is a way to refresh them and refresh their thought.
True, I absolutely agree, because the magic of the Schloss is something very unique, and it really kind of changes you when you take back something very, very special in your life. I feel over and above that, I feel that the spirit of the Schloss really connected with me, because like I said, that the seed of the story was sown in 1998, and it survived over 14 years till I actually wrote the book. And I think that is a very strong connect, because obviously you travel a lot, you see a lot of places, but to keep wanting to come back to this one particular place to write a novel, and writing a novel is not an easy thing. It took me 1 year just to research, and another 6-7 months just to write it, and then another year to find the publisher. So yes. So Bloomsbury, India was really kind enough to really to publish this book, because it was a very difficult book to be published. There were no Indian characters in it. So yes, so when you think of all that, then you realize that there has to be some special connection with a place, with that story, to have actually gone through this whole lonely process of 3 years. So yes, I agree with you that the Schloss is very special. The seminar is very special. So finally, when you read the book, did you like it? Number one. And if you did, do you think it really kind of, or if you did not, do you really think it well, I have to give you that. Do you think it represents faithfully the atmosphere, the history of the Schloss? Does it connect with the contemporary plot I have put it in? What are your thoughts on the trailer 4?
What I really liked about it was the atmosphere. So it's not, I mean, you're a fiction writer, so you took liberties not just by disguising certain characters and by adding your own characters to the mix, but you took liberties by describing what was in the Schloss.
Yes.
But you have a great eye for detail. So it was actually fun when I was reading the book to wander over to the Schloss and look up at the ceiling here or outside the building over there and say, I never noticed that before.
Yes,
And the story you may spin about it may or may not be true. It doesn't matter. It is fiction after all. So it doesn't have to be true. But it really captures the feel of the Schloss. It captures the character. It captures what this is all about. And that's just a lot of fun to read.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because I enjoyed doing it, and I realized, I remember after Jan took me around the Schloss and showed me the usual suspects, like the secret door in the library and stuff like that. And after that, I must have taken at least 50 personal rounds around the Schloss, just looking at things, and discovering, like, for example, in the library, I discovered an owl, in one place, and and other faces. Yes, yeah. So, and then I kept thinking, how could I, incorporate it as clues? And I started forming the trail, going every step of the way, including there's a tree across the lake which is kind of completely bent like an arm, So yeah, it was fun for me too to discover these things. Yes. So now I'm going to ask you, Charles, some quick rapid fire questions. Okay, which you could of course answer in a line or a sentence or two, but whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, you've been to India because Salzburg Global Seminar has been a partner at the Pune Lit Fest for the last 4 years. And so many of you have come to India now. You're the 4th person to come now, and you've been to India before that. It wasn't your first trip to India. Yeah, but you went around Aurangabad. You saw the caves. You went to, Chennai, I think. Yeah, Mahabalipuram you went. Yeah. So then you came to Pune. So I want to ask you, what was your impression of India apart from the smells and the usual comments? What really got to you about India?
Well, it is the diversity of the place. So my first trip to India, I was invited to a conference in Calcutta. And since I had never been to India before, I extended that to make it a 3-week trip. But I spent 2 weeks wandering around Rajasthan, and then I went down to Calcutta, then I went up to Delhi. And then when I was my second trip, which was for the Pune Lit Fest last year, is when I came into Mumbai, and I was out at Pune. I went to the Ajanta caves and Hoja, and I did go down to Chennai and Mahabalipuram. And so what I've seen there, and I realize that's only a small selection, but it's so diverse. So you have so many different cultures. There's not one India. It's like saying I'm coming to Europe. There's a lot of different cultures. There's a lot of different backgrounds. And India may be, just in India itself, maybe even more diverse than all of Europe put together. So it's that fascination and the interplay between the different cultures. So so that's what I find most rewarding about traveling around India.
Would you like to come back?
Of course. And see new places. I mean, there's so much I haven't seen. So yes.
Yes, of course. Okay, so second question, operas, travel, or politics? I mean, I see your Facebook face flooding with comments and your choices of operas, and, of course, you love to travel. So out of the three, what's your top priority?
Well, in times of COVID, we're all a bit locked down. So I'm fortunate here in Austria that musical life has resumed. So I was at the Salzburg Festival this morning, and I'll be going to another concert this afternoon, but I was unable to get opera tickets for this year's festival because there's only doing 2 operas. So so no opera at the moment, no live opera at least. And I've been
so that leaves politics. That leaves you with politics. Well,
yes. But it's really the travel. I've done some travel this summer, and I've tried to go where the tourists are not, because of COVID. So I'm trying to avoid crowds, and if people are going to the beach, I'm not going to the beach. I'm going some other direction, and it's nice to see new things that I didn't already know.
Right, great, yeah. So next question: what is your? I mean, you've seen the Schloss for 6.5 years now. Which is your favorite Schloss memory or incident? Anything that comes up off the top?
It's been such a great experience the whole time. I don't know if I have a favorite incident. I just feel every day when I leave my apartment, which is not on the site, and walk to work, I look at the Untersberg mountain in the distance, and it gets closer as I walk towards the Schloss. And then I walk in the gates, and there's the mountain, if it's not behind clouds. And I just think how lucky I am.
Yeah, I think so too. I think all of you who are working there are very lucky. Absolutely. I remember talking to Daniel and the last trip I was there, and he said, how are you finding it? And I said, Austria or Salzburg or the Schloss brings out the writer in me. And I think that says it all, because when some location really brings out the best in you as a creative person, I think for me, that's the highest compliment, because that's who I am. For me, I still remember that when I used to write, and after that post lunch, I used to take the walk around the lake, and that lake walk, and it features as the last climax section in the Trail of Four. And that's where the story ends. And I wanted it to end on that lake walk, because it gives you the Schloss in full view, and not just the Schloss, the Meyerhof, which is 100 years older than the Schloss. And you see this whole picture as a postcard, and it kind of stays in memory forever. So my last scene of the last page takes place on that path. So the lake and everything is a beautiful experience. Well, now I'm going to ask you, of course, again, if you want to, and I hope you have one, but what is your favorite scene in the book?
Actually, I don't have a favorite scene in the book. If that's okay, it's okay. What I really enjoyed about the book is the. I mean, as you said, when you go across the lake, you look back and you see the Schloss and the Meyerhof next to the ensemble, and then the castle on the hill behind us, which I'm pointing to, but it's behind that wall. But it's an ensemble, and I think your book is an ensemble, and it has to be taken as a whole. And it's not just one scene. Just like I said, I don't have one particular incident or one particular program that I've run where I've said this program, I'd give everything else up and keep that one. No, it's the whole.
Yeah, it's the whole thing. Yeah.
And I think that's what your book captures.
Yeah, but you do have a beer stube. I just remembered. Yeah, and unfortunately, I couldn't use much of it in the book, although I did kind of go there. But the beer stube I just realized, could have some special memories there for all of you. No?
It does.
I mean, I'm going off. I'm going off from the favorite scene to the other question right now because I just remember the beer tube, and I realized maybe you could have a favorite memory there.
Well, it's a funny place because for those people who are on this broadcast who don't know it, in the basement of the palace we have it looks like an old college bar. It has a bar there. There's drinks, non-alcoholic and alcoholic. There's a few little snacks. There's a pool table. There's a guitar. There's a ping pong table. There's an upright piano. There's board games, and you take people who are working really hard when they come here. We do programs right through the day, into the evening, and people are really trying to. It's not a talking shop. They're really trying to change the world. And at the end of the day, after dinner, you're a bit exhausted. But then people go down there and they play ping pong with each other, and it's very fun. I have an image of a bunch of directors of multinational corporations playing speed ping pong, running around the ping pong table, like they were back in college. And it just, seeing things like that, and then seeing people then relate and talk to each other down there, where they just relax. And sometimes the best ideas come out of that. It's not the alcohol; it's actually the interaction. You don't need to drink anything down. Experience down there. I once did a beer store where there was no beer, and everybody was still coming out with brilliant ideas and just very relaxed. We were playing board games, and people talked to each other. And then the next morning at breakfast and during the program, people were so refreshed and able to get on with their work.
Yeah, I think that's where the ice breaks and people get to know each other. There's some dancing, there's some music, and the evenings are really beautiful and nice. Yes. So, sorry, I lost you.
It is not choreographed. It's really just come on down. And some people are skeptical, and they go down there and they relax, and whatever it is they feel like doing, if they want to dance, if they want to play ping pong, if they want to sit and talk in the corner, all of that's fun. Right.
Yeah. I just remembered another thing that Dan said. Dan, I'm sorry, I'm kind of paraphrasing you, but in one of my interviews, that when I interviewed him, he said, when people come there, they say, the good thing about the Schloss is that it's a hotel which doesn't feel like a hotel. And I think that's really beautiful, because seriously, when you come there, it feels like a home, a royal home, no doubt. But there is this feeling of connect to the palace, to the seminar, and when anybody comes there to attend all these sessions, they're really taken care of so well. So I think Salzburg Global Seminar and the Schloss are a kind of they're soulmates. They're really soulmates, and I think the entire package is an experience to be experienced. I feel that. And I hope I've done some justice in the book, because that's what I try to do, the way Dan said, that it's a hotel which doesn't feel like a hotel. And I try to bring that into the book. So yeah, I wish Dan and Thomas and the others could have also joined us, and they could have added their bit. But Charles, you've been a super representative of the Salzburg Global Seminar, the Schloss, and for the Trail of Four from that side of the ocean.
Actually, we're on the same side of the ocean.
Are we? Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Okay. I mean, well, all right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Great. So thank you so much, Charles. It was great having you here. Are there any famous last words that you want to say before you leave my session?
I just look forward to when we're next seeing each other in person, and whether here or in Pune, in Salzburg or in Pune or somewhere else. And then to all our friends around the world, it would be nice. The one thing that we're missing most, even though we're doing a lot of online programs during the COVID times, is we miss our friends from around the world and seeing them in person and being with them. So I hope everybody stays well and healthy and sane, and we will see you all again soon.
Yes, all of you also stay safe and enjoy your sessions, even if it's online. And good luck for everything.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Well, so that was Charles, and well, it was really interesting talking to him. I don't know if we have time for a book reading. I'm just going to look at the questions quickly. Do you want me to read a small bit from the book? Please say yes or no on the comments so that I know. Lots of questions here. Did you write the book in the... Yes, Gauri, you came a little late. I said why I chose this location because number one, because of the palace, and it was the perfect place to base a thriller. And I'd seen it many years ago, and I went back there to do it. And the palace has really fantastic history too. And I wanted to combine a thread from that history into a contemporary plot. And I wanted to start my destination thriller series, and I said, why not Salzburg? So that's one. What else? Thank you, Harmonica. What do you have any more? Okay. Uh, Charles, you have given a very detailed description of the Salzburg. Yes, Charles did. Any more questions? Okay, you want me to read? Okay, I'm going to do a short reading. I know it's like past 5:30, but okay. So, right. So the book takes place in 4 parts. It's like the 4 elements, like fire, water, earth, and air. And the mystery is solved, along these 4 elements. And in the second part, which is water, Ray and his companion, that is Isabel, who is the historian and the fellowship manager of the seminar at fictitious, of course, in the book, and Officer Stefan Weiss, who is also a part of solving it, and Dan, and all of them realize that water has something to do with the cemetery. And so this portion that I'm going to read is where they're trying to actually go and stop something horrible from happening, because in the note that was left. So did I tell you the story? Okay, just quickly, the story is that when Ray goes to the Schloss, they realize that the Archbishop's heart, which was kind of buried in the chapel, is stolen, and there's a note left there by Max Reinhardt. Max Reinhardt, who owned the palace in the early 1900s and has been dead for more than 75 years. They actually find a note by him which says, "Find my last gift to the Schloss, or the 4 pillars of Salzburg are going to be destroyed." And so they have to figure out what the 4 pillars are. They have to follow a trail left by him, and the trail leads them to the cemetery. So I'm going to just read that little bit now. Minutes later, the car was speeding through the silent streets towards St. Peter's Abbey. The occasional groups of tourists and young people were hanging out around the pubs. Ray wanted to shout at them to return to the safety of their houses, but he steadied himself. He shouldn't panic. They would reach in time. The danger would be averted. It had to be. Stefan didn't speak while he drove them, fast, a tense expression on his face. Ray looked straight ahead, and Isabel wrung her hands restlessly. Would they make it in time? For the umpteenth time, Ray glanced at his watch. It's midnight. We're almost there, aren't we? Ray asked. Almost, Stefan replied. Let's park here. We'll have to walk the rest of the way. I can hear something. Ray's voice was a whisper. Suddenly, all of them could hear what he meant. The steady sound of water gushing, the sound increasing like a slow roar. Ray jumped out of the car and found his feet submerged. Run, he exclaimed, but the others were already on the way. Ray followed the flow of the water, his feet plunging into the gurgling rivulets that sparkled in the moonlight. The bakery side of the cemetery, Isabel shouted. Ray didn't care which route. All he knew was that he had to reach the graves. The sound of the water grew louder, and he stopped, shocked. The entire cemetery seemed to be swallowed up with the hurtling water in its huge speed to reach the streets. Water gushed down the paths between the graves, tumbling over the gravestones, crushing the flowers and shrubs on its way, bending the metal crosses, and leaving a slippery trail of unleashed damage. Ray edged forward to check the source of the gushing water. And there it was, at the high end of the cemetery, a big square opening in the dark wall like the mouth of a monster, opening wide, screaming an endless river of liquid. It sucked in everything that dared to obstruct its way like a hungry fiend. Isabel screamed. Ray knew that he would never, ever forget the sight. So that's it. That's just a small bit of the book. I hope you can get to read it and let me know how you like it. I'm going to ask you my competition question now. Those who have read it would probably know. Those who haven't would have to get the book to find out the answer to the question. The question is, what is Isabel's husband's name in the book? So Isabel, who's the fellowship manager and the historian, her husband has gone missing, and it's one of the subplots. So could you tell me what was his name? So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. It was a great pleasure talking to you. I'll meet you next Saturday again. Happy Independence Day again, all of you. Bye bye.